problem in your life today cannot just be solved with more action, brute force. That's you wrestling with effect. And I've said it countlessly. I've taught you the difference between cause and effect. If you struggle with effects, you might not solve the problem. But if you find the cause of the problem, provide solution, the effect dwindles as a consequence. In fact, majority of you listening to me today have taken massive action, have taken brute force, have done every single thing you know how to do. You've read the books, you've consumed the content, you've taken massive action, you've affirmed, and yet nothing seems to change. If you fall under the category of people I just described, then this video is for you. The subconscious mind is what we are going to discuss today. And I've highlighted on this subject a couple of times, but I've not been as extensive as I would today. So the subconscious mind is the giver of instructions. The subconscious mind are the thoughts you unknowingly adopt. And why is this important? This is important because thoughts leads to action. Action produces results. Results determines the ultimate quality of your life. I thought about this video. I thought of the positive benefits and how happy, excited, the benefits, the liberation that comes as a consequence of this teaching, and the benefits it relays upon my audience. I thought about it, which led to the action, then results. The difference between the subconscious mind and mainstream action, you're unconsciously doing it. A huge majority, in fact, there's this story I would like to share. There was this lady who, an entrepreneur, struggling to grow her business. Upon interaction, I asked, what is the worst thing about this business? Because prior, she had explained, and from my explanation, as I told her, if everything you say is accurate, then you're on the right trajectory, which means something is wrong with you, not the business, you. Of which she confessed she detests handling people, which means it's blocking the reality of more clients. If you detest the idea of having to deal with more people, which means you have to deal with more clients. If you have more clients, you hire more people, which means subconsciously you begin to take actions that defeats that reality. A huge majority of people would say, I want to be successful. Observing their actions is not on that trajectory. And this has very little to do with discipline, motivation, and all of those concepts you've been struggling with individually, but more to do with the subconscious mind. This false reality that rich people are evil, or you've adopted the belief wealth changes you, or you're uncertain about this new personality appended with wealth. Therefore, you self-sabotage, you get up late, you do not plan, you hope things would work out magically. And in fact, when situations position itself that leads to expansion, when things come for you to move forward, you procrastinate. I'll do it later until the opportunity passes. That's how most people operate. The subconscious mind is the problem. The subconscious mind takes action. This is where you dwell psychologically. The inverse is the case, which means if you subconsciously believe you're a millionaire, you begin to take actions in accordance to that belief. You get up early, you write things, you plan, you measure your success, you review the plan, you iterate, you take feedback and repeat the process. you notice your interactions is no longer scripted. This life of observing living from a permutation standpoint. So if XYZ happens, this is how I react. If XYZ happens, this is how I would react. To reacting in ways of which you would have planned logically. The height of manifestation, and we cannot discuss the subconscious without exploring manifestation. The height of manifestation is when you begin to react how you would if the outcome has materialized. As a millionaire, someone comes to you with his problems, and yes, you cannot solve the financial problems from a holistic standpoint, but you give your contribution, you give your advice, you give the little you have, and you don't just give from a donation standpoint, you communicate either an idea or you communicate the understanding in what you have just done. Very recently, I was with a very big man of God, an apostle, about to make a substantial donation to the church. I said, when we give, it's not a donation, it's not for followers and likes, it's not to appear as though we've arrived or to make noise in private circles. I gave XYZ to X church. But when we give, we understand we are giving to the kingdom of God. In fact, if you study the Bible, there are very few things that fall under the umbrella of mighty works. Chiefest amongst them is soul winning. And one of the ways you can win soul, either by act of service or goodwill, is your resources channeled towards the direction of soul winning. After this preamble, I drop my seed. You can see the demeanor and the healthy respect that was planted in that man of God. Now, we have a very good relationship. I can come to his office anytime I want. The point I'm trying to highlight is not limited to this giving standpoint. For instance, if I see people who have achieved something worthy of admiration, I don't envy, I observe their actions and I commend. Previously, I saw a video of a young man in high school who struck gold medal in the Olympics, some boxing contest, and the whole school came outside to give him a standing ovation as he arrived. I clapped too. Some of you would envy that outcome. It's too much, they disrupted classes and all of this for high school kids. You would find excuses why that accolade shouldn't be bestowed upon that young man. You're operating from an envious standpoint. That's not how billionaires act. In fact, I'll give you another example. The reason most people today are negative and would want to have a less positive interaction with a billionaire, subconsciously they believe uploading that video would drive traffic towards their page. That's why people act like delinquents. That's why people are badly behaved. That's why people walk around and every single interaction, be it in the gym, in the bathroom, any kind of public place, is recorded. Why? Subconsciously believing it drives traffic. And what is the aim of the traffic? High followers, high social standing. So the people are not necessarily bad. It's the wrong belief that powers that action. for the sake of time, we'll end it here. As always, my friends, pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.